So India win this test match by 379 runs after bowling England out for 164 in their second innings. They made 134 in the first, so it was something of an improvement. But England only just managed in the fourth innings to scrape past what Rohit Sharma made on his own for India in their first innings. Therein lies the tale of this one. I'm going to give it back to Mark Nicholas to take you through all the various parts of the post-match here on TalkSport 2.
Well, thanks, Macca. I think we're all there. I've just lost atmosphere from India, but we got it back. Okay. We're still with Darren Gough and Gareth Batty. What we're doing actually is hanging on because we hear that Joe Root is about to be available to talk to us, so we'll keep chatting until that moment and break off the minute that Joe Root is available. It'll be an interesting conversation with him because it's been a difficult match for England.
I think Joe Root will be honest. They've been totally outplayed by India in this test match. Like, this team, it's an impressive team, England. I think they find ways to win test matches, but unfortunately for them, it just goes to show people think you win the toss in India, you're going to go and get 450 to win the game. India made just over 300 for the brilliant Rohit Sharma getting that 161 in the first innings, and it set up an easy victory for India. India have showed far better skills in this game than England have, and they've been well beaten, but there's no need to be down about it. It's 1-1 in the series, and England are going on with hopefully a chance of still winning the series.
Okay, well, Joe is now available. Joe, hi, Mark Nicholas here.
Hiya, Mark. How are you?
I'm well, very good, thank you. A very difficult match for you, obviously. How would you sum it up?
Yeah, it was. I think looking back at it right now, I'd say it's been a great education for our batters in particular, our spinners as well, on what it can be like playing in this part of the world. I think that there's certain areas that we can get better at. And we have to learn lessons from the way that they played on that surface. The toss was an important one, but it didn't determine. I don't think it determined the game. I think that if we'd have won a toss and batted first, we weren't guaranteed to go on and win. But credit to India, they've outplayed us heavily this week. We've got to learn from the performance. But remember that we're 1-1 in this series with the day-night game round the corner. And, we've played some very good cricket away from home in the recent past. So I think we've just got to stay level, keep looking to get better, as mentioned last week, and understand that, in these conditions, we're going to have to keep trying to find a way of managing our own games and finding ways of scoring runs, building big partnerships, just as they did throughout the test match.
Well, that's a very honest appraisal, and very much as Goughy just said he thought we'd hear from you. If you were winding back the clock, would you agree that the first day was probably the one that cost you the most, in that India got more than perhaps they ought to have done on that pitch?
Yeah, I think we would have liked to have bowled slightly better. I think that, of course, that was when the wicket was at its best, but we didn't quite manage to squeeze the game as well as we would have liked, and as we probably have done in other test matches in the recent past. So it's something that we say that's what we want to do. We want to try and find ways of building pressure, and one of those ways is by bowling 6 balls at one batter, building pressure through maidens, and we just didn't quite manage to do that. So that, as I said, that's a great learner for us ahead of the rest of this series, and something that I think that we can get right in the near future.
This is a difficult question to ask, and maybe not an easy one to answer, and it's by no means an accusation, but clearly having to follow the idea of rotation, driven mainly by quarantine and bubbles and the life you're now leading, it's not ideal to go into a test A without perhaps your first choice team, and also with somebody like Moeen Ali, such a key figure, an off spinner in a match like this, having not played any cricket. There's a lot of sympathy for that.
Yeah, it's a difficult time in that respect, but it's that we've got to manage the best we can, and I think we are doing that. You look at the side that we've put out, and of course, whenever you lose, you'll look at every reason for that, and one of them will always be selection. They're the 11 guys on the field, but there's no question that they're an extremely talented bunch of players. I'm sure there'll be questions about Jimmy resting, but replacing him with the number 2 bowler in the world, in Stuart Broad, who's fabulous, and on a wicket, this week in particular, where seam really didn't play a part throughout the whole Test match. So we can look at different things around that, and rest and rotation and quarantines, but it's very tricky. Guys are spending long periods of time away from home. They need breaks. They need to be able to go and see their families and be fresh and ready to go. And the lads have prepared as well as they can. Coming into this game, we tried to make the most of those practice days in a back-to-back game. And the fact of the matter is that we've been outplayed in all 3 departments this week on a wicket which is spun, which is very foreign to an inexperienced batting lineup. And we have to take that on the chin. But one thing we've done really well, and why we've had success abroad of late, is we've got a group that are very quick learners, and they'll take things in and they'll add it to the games. And we've got a period now going into this pink ball game to have some honest discussions with ourselves as a group and look at, right, how are we going to manage things? We're a very level sort of dressing room, and it's important that we take that forward. We won't beat ourselves up too much. We won't get ahead of ourselves. We certainly didn't last week when we played as well as we did. But we'll come back and we'll be fighting really hard for the rest of this series.
And we can. It doesn't need to be a long answer. We can take it for granted there'll be a couple of changes in the side for the next Test, primarily because that's the plan.
Yeah. I'm sure there will be changes, but they're just to be had over this little break now.
Okay, and lastly, I think you got the original unplayable ball today.
Well, it was a kind of wicket where that if one had your name on it, you just had to accept it, and I'm not sure how else would, apart from trying to maybe reverse slog sweep it. I don't know how you try and manage that.
Brilliant, Joe. It's as ever a pleasure to talk to you. You're 1-1 in the series with 2 to play, and still very much a chance of taking it if you play good cricket. So thank you very much for your honesty and your time. Much appreciated.
Cheers, Mark. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Joe. He's good, isn't he?
Absolutely, good interview that, Mark. Absolutely, he's spot on. They've been totally outplayed, and I think he accepted that. He knows there's going to be difficulties from this team playing against spin. I think the way they played it in the second innings, there'll be question marks. I mean, you talk about sweeping and sweeping a tall left armour where there's uneven bounce in the pitch and a lot of turn. I think quite a few batsmen have been dismissed in this innings. Try to play the sweep shot. We discussed it before start of play. And building partnership is the key to having success on Indian soil. And I think if you look at the first Test, we got partnerships. Someone got a big score. And that's why we won the game. This game, we had no real partnerships throughout the game, and that's why we lost. It's simple. But don't be too down, because it's 1-1, 2 to play.
Matt, I thought you were going to speak. Go for it.
Yes, I was. I want to stress the point again that Goffey's just made, and you, Mark, how impressive that interview was from Joe Root. I just thought that was, you talk about, we watch him bat, and we'll always talk about how, scoring his runs and how great he is. But as a leader, that's what you want. That England cricket team with young, inexperienced players, the captain, and as he said, we got to remain very level. He didn't sound overly emotional about anything, but he was straight to the point. So he didn't hide behind any. He said, "Yep, there are some players that are underprepared, but we're trying to manage that as best we can." Fair enough. You can't argue that. He said we've been outplayed by India. Our batters have to learn how to adjust. He didn't blame the pitch. He didn't say that was terrible.
He talked about day one, didn't he, Matt?
He talked about day one. We should have bowled better. He admitted that, and you come away from it, you go, well, that's fair. That's fair enough. Open, honest, and that's an England captain. That's a leader right there, which I think is fantastic.
You know what people will be wondering, Gareth? Oh, I hate saying this because I feel for the guys. Can England win this series with the current spin attack?
Yes, and I say that so resoundingly because I think Moeen Ali really showed in that second innings that he's getting that feel back for the pace and the moving up and down the gears.
I think he's going home.
Well, we don't know that for definite, so I'm clinging to that. I'm clinging that Moeen is available. We've not heard it from the England cap directly, I don't think, have we? I think there's been speculation in the press. If Moeen goes, wow, then it is going to be incredibly difficult because you're going to have Leach and Bess and then an inexperienced spinner because it'll be one of the three lads who have been basically carried around Sri Lanka, and then the first 2 test matches in India coming potentially into the 4.
You're saying you'd play a third in Ahmedabad?
Well, we don't know until we see the surface, but I would suggest that India now have a formula that they're very comfortable. They ain't going to... I wouldn't have thought they'd be bringing Anderson and Broad back into the game too much. Is it possible in a day-night game? I don't know, because there hasn't been much played in India, if any. So,
well, no, there have been, and surprisingly, a high percentage have been draws.
Well, then, in that case, you suggest that maybe the big lads, Anderson and Broad, come to the fore and show the reason why they're top bowlers in the world and England's greatest ever. But I think if it becomes a similar surface to this, then I think it is potentially going to be very, very difficult.
Well, it will be interesting now what they do with the pitches, because, like I say, the pitch from ball 1 turned. Joe Root there talked about the toss not being that big a factor in the outcome of the game. Our performance on day 1 wasn't good enough. He's admitted that. And I think we have got good spinning. I think Jack Leach has got better as the test matches have gone on. I don't think there's a problem there. He thought he bowled a real good pace in the second innings there for England. Moeen Ali is the key for me. I agree totally with you. He can bat, and we've seen there destructive. If he had more time in the game and they were chasing a decent total, he can win you a game. He's a match winner, and he bowls wicket-taking deliveries. And he bowled more bad balls this innings than I've ever seen him bowl in a game, and that's purely down for him not bowling any overs going into this test match.
Just a little bit rusty, but I think spinners need to be bowling on the front foot, and by that I mean ideally you're winning the toss and you have a score on the board. If England cannot score enough runs, that is going to be crucial to whether they can win this series. We're always going to look at the spin because we've seen Axar Patel and Ashwin and Yadav bowl beautifully here, but they've had runs, they've had the pressure, they've had the momentum of the game. If spinners are bowling against the momentum, that is always incredibly tough, and that is where India have it over England, because they have a world-class spinner in Ashwin, and they have probably fractionally more skill sets that can transfer in their own conditions. I'm not for a second suggesting that our spinners are not good, because they are. We won a test match in India, and it was the first one only a week ago.
And we batted really well in that test match. So what we're going to do is go back to basics, and each batsman has got to be chatting now with the batting coach, which is Jonathan Trott, or with the assistant coach, Graham Thorpe. Both similar in the way they went about playing spin, but they've got to have their individual plan to play. And I thought in the first innings we saw, without a doubt, but Ben Foakes had a plan. We saw Ollie Pope definitely had a plan in that first innings. Very difficult if you're going to be going down to day 4, day 5, when the ball is turning and spitting and bouncing, to have any sort of technique. You need that little bit of luck, don't you, in the second innings? But I think you've got it right. That first innings, whether we're batting first or batting second, we have to score runs.
Yeah, I think if you're constantly getting down to the situation we had today, where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, we're going to say you get out playing a sweep shot. Oh, what's he doing sweeping? If you get out playing forward, we're going to say, oh no, you can't just dig yourself a hole. You can't win as a batsman in this situation. Whereas first innings you can. You have a better opportunity.
But we'd lost the game, haven't we, going into today? I mean, there was no one out there who thought we had any chance of winning, surely. But as I said, it would have been nice if they would have took it a little bit deeper. The target for me at the start of the day would have been, listen, I know it's going to be hard work out there, guys, but if we can guts it out, let's just try and take them into the 50. It didn't happen because India bowled really, really well. And again, we played some poor shots today, didn't we? Poor shot selection. But India spinners are an handful. Yeah. And we've seen today in these conditions, they are quality. Mark.
It's India's biggest win over England, 317 in terms of runs, I mean here. And that same 317 is England's biggest win ever at Chennai. 5th biggest win ever in test matches in terms of the margin, again, and by runs. After Delhi, Indore, Mohali, and then one against West Indies at North Sound, but 317 comes next. So it's a huge victory. Interestingly, Gareth, this test had the second most stumpings of all test matches played in India. 5 in this match as against 6 when India played West Indies in Madras, and also England in Madras, their first test win, which was in 19 52. So a lot of things happening here. Virat Kohli now goes level with MS Dhoni. No, goes ahead of MS Dhoni now. No, he goes level with MS Dhoni on 21 Test match wins, way ahead of Mohammad Azharuddin and Sourav Ganguly. And it's England's biggest defeat in Asia. So there's a lot happened there, and there's a lot to talk about. Let's start right at the top of the order with guys you know so well. You've got, Dom Sibley, Rory Burns, and then obviously Zach Crawley and Dan Lawrence as well. Would you be critical of Dan Lawrence's shot today, for example? It was an odd thing to suddenly charge Ashwin. He hadn't played the over before against Axar all that well. Was it a hint of desperation?
No, I think he'd been relatively positive throughout his innings. And the fact he was trying to run offside of the ball, you would say from a technical point of view, that's the right thing to an off-spinner, get offside of the ball. And it was a bit freakish, really, the dismissal, because he nutmegged himself. Generally, you just say close your legs and get hit on the pad. It was going down the leg side. It was just one of those strange things that we see happen when the ball is turning and plenty of noise around the bat. You just see that more freakish dismissal that is not the norm. I think in a lot of ways he showed a lot of character to play the way that he did, because it's actually quite gutsy to go out and be as positive as he was, and particularly playing against the spin of the left arm spinner. I actually think it shows that, look, this is what I normally do and I'm going to continue to play in that manner. So in some ways I think it's a bit of a tick in the box.
Dan Lawrence, the unfortunate thing, if you think back though, is been done by the experience of Ashwin in both innings. The first innings, he stopped the last ball before the break in his run-up, and then he paused, went in and got him out, caught back pad. Second innings, he had the chat with his keeper, Rishabh Pant. They knew it was a plan to him. He's run down, he's fell for it. You could see with the delivery and the way he was doing it, he was always going down there, and it's gone through him and he's stumped. So he's been done by a very experienced cricketer. But as I said, every single day in life you learn something, and he would have learnt a lot from playing in this test match in those conditions against a very, very good team.
Absolutely. He faced 50 balls for 9, I think it was, in the first innings. He flipped that on its head for the second. He was more positive. He said, I'm not going to die in the hole. And unfortunately, I'm still putting it down as a freakish dismissal, this one. I think next time around he'll look at that and say, I'm just going to kick it. I'm going to let it hit me. Can't be out.
I think Ashwin had a word with him last night as they left the field too, and said, you won't be hitting any more straight sixes off me, buddy. Joe Root came over and gave a bit of defence, I think, to Lawrence. We'll come back to, I'm going to come back to that same question, but a little earlier we talked about day-night matches in India. There have been 16 first-class day-night games, 18 and 14 have been draws in first-class cricket, but only one day-night test, and that was won comfortably by India against Bangladesh by an innings of 46 runs, but the wickets were taken by seamers. 27 wickets in the match, 28 wickets in the match, 27 taken by seamers, only one by spin. So, it's just worth reflecting on that. Okay, go on, you want to say something?
But just quickly on that, but India's last game, playing with a pink ball, yes, it was in Australia, but they were all out for 36, Mark.
Well, they were,
they were in charge of that game, by the way, until the last innings, bowled out for 36.
Let's just come back to this. What would be your front three for the next test then? What would you do at this problem? There's the three players I talked about who've played here, then there's Crawley fit, and there's Bairstow back.
The problem that you've got is you've told Bairstow that he's resting. It's not a dropping issue, so he has to come into the team, or else you are setting a precedent that you're never coming back.
That's right, is it? You know that to be the case. That he's been told he will play the next test.
No. What I'm saying is he was told to be resting, and that's why you're going home. We're looking after you. He wasn't dropped. So he has to play. He'll play 100%, Johnny Bairstow. He's experienced. He's a good player of spin, by the way. He does sweep the ball well as well,
So
Johnny.
he'll bat at 3, that's great.
He's going to bat at 3. The problem they've got then is what do they do with the Burns situation?
So Lawrence goes, Pope stays.
Pope stays, definitely.
Right. Lawrence goes, so then it's just 2 openers we've got to find out of 3 people.
Well, it's Burns or Crawley. That's what it comes down to. I mean,
Sibley plays.
Yeah, Sibley plays. You've got to remember, he got 80-odd in that first innings and 70-odd in his second test in Sri Lanka. So I don't think it's a problem for Sibley. It's going to be a big tour for him going forward, Sibley, whether he plays in the summer. But I think Crawley or Burns is the biggest decision they're going to have to make. Because Burns, if you look at his scores in his last 6 or 7 Test matches, he's not really. If he's got in, he's not cashed in, and it's got to be a problem the way he keeps getting out as well. Bats.
Yeah, I think you look at it that Crawley didn't get too many runs in Sri Lanka, so it's not like you've got somebody ready and waiting in the wings who's really adept in these conditions. I know from rumours around the camp and chatter around the camp that England had earmarked Burns for the next Ashes. They were saying this fella's got the right sort of temperament and attitude to marry up and really go toe-to-toe with the Aussies. It's just allowing yourself that opportunity by time and Test matches to get enough runs to stay there. So, look, there's arguments for both men. It's whether you want left and right at the top of the order. I don't know. It's whether you want to go with a younger man. It's whether you want to look at actual here and now form, which neither have particularly great numbers. It's a real difficult conundrum for England.
And it's only at the end of last summer that Zach Crawley made 260 odd in an England shirt, isn't it? Okay, so who else? Where else are we talking? I think we just have a moment on Ben Foakes, because Bairstow comes back. He won't keep wicket in the next match, I don't think. I think Foakes will. And then there's a big question because Buttler returns, doesn't he? Oh no, for the one day. So Foakes, in theory, could keep the gloves for the rest of the series. Do you think that's what will happen, Matt?
Surely he keeps wicket. I mean, if you're going to play the two of them, you play your best keeper keeps, and Ben Foakes is the best keeper. He's shown that today. He's earned the right. He's earned the right to keep. I understand all the rotation and everything else, but he's earned the right to keep the gloves. So I would expect him to keep the gloves for the next 2
And
tests.
going forward, what would you say when England go back to English conditions at the start of the English summer?
Well, right now Buttler comes in because that again, as Bats has just said, he's been rotated,
isn't
rested.
it odd to people that the argument about being the best wicket keeper goes out of the window?
Yes, and that's why I don't think it's actually. I think that argument actually negates Foakes' opportunity to play, because you want your best player, your best batsman, wicketkeeper, batsman, whichever way you want to say it. You want your best player at 7 who's going to score your hundreds and take every chance that comes his way. That's it. So whether wicketkeeper, batsman, wicketkeeper, doesn't matter.
I think what Foakes has to do, if he really wants to start the summer, he has to play these next 2 Test matches, which he will. Johnny will play as an out-and-out batsman, and he needs to, if he can somehow come and get an 100 or a big 80 in one of these next 2 tests, he puts his name in the hat. But I think Buttler, the way he's kept in the last 6 or 7 matches, has been excellent. He's not made any mistakes behind the stumps. We still want more from him, don't we, as a batsman, because we all understand what a talented cricketer he is, and he frustrates us, like so many players have done in the past, because of the talent he's got. But he hasn't made any mistakes behind the stumps, has he, Josh Buttler, of late? So,
no, I think, and he's improved. Buttler, I don't think he was ever a terrible wicketkeeper, but he's certainly improved. The last Test match he kept brilliantly. So I'm certainly not saying Buttler should be dropped or anything like that. But with this rotation, with people being rested, it allows others to come in and show what they can do, and that's what Ben Foakes in the next 2 tests is going to have to play unbelievably. He's going to have to, but let's just say he goes 100 in the next 2 Test matches.
Well, he starts, yeah. He'd have to start.
Then you're asking, well, hold on a minute. You've got the form player. He's the one that's played the most recent Test matches. Who's playing the first Test of the summer in England? You're opening up a discussion, but there's no argument how good a player Josh Buttler is. That's not in question.
What if it keeps carrying on like this, where Foakes is stranded first innings, 40 odd and out, playing very well, chanceless, and then gets out second innings because the game has gone? What if that continues for the next 2 games, and he's been stranded and not allowed to get the hundreds? Are we saying, well, is he the guy that can get the score that we're asking? Or if he doesn't have the opportunity because the tail gets blown away in these sort of conditions?
He's right, but this is what we said. We're having the same conversation now as we had in Sri Lanka, but there's 3 keepers, 3 guys who all can keep and all can bat. I think what Ben Foakes has showed us, whether you thought that was a one-off, his 100 in Sri Lanka, which was magnificent, by the way. We were all there working on that game. But I think realistically, I've been blown away by his talent as a batsman and his first-class record as a batsman. So no longer am I going to say he's a wicket-keeper who can bat. He's actually someone who's in the team on merit because he's good enough to do both, right? And I think we all get stuck on that. Oh, no, we've got to play a batsman who can keep, or we've got to play a wicket-keeper who can bat a little bit. I mean, it's just a wicket-keeper in the side who's batting at 7.
That's such a valid point, and I'll keep bleating on about it, but I hope Ben Foakes thinks that way as well. I hope he doesn't think I'm a wicket-keeper who bats. His mentality should be, I score Test hundreds at 7. I should be averaging 45 That's my target. I should be averaging 45 to 50, batting at 7 in Test matches for England, and of course doing an outstanding job with the gloves. But don't mentally put yourself in a place where you're only going to play Test matches in the subcontinent where wicket keeping comes into it.
And he's right, because Josh Buttler, right, he's played 50 Test matches. He's got 200s. Right, we'd all expect a bit more than that, wouldn't we? Let's be honest about it. If Folkesy goes and pops in another 100 in this next Test match, he's already into 200s and he's not played 10. Well, he's not played 5, has he?
Yeah, well, this is such an interesting discussion. For me, funnily enough, it's totally the batting that sways it. I think his wicket keeping is good. I don't think it's ridiculously good, and I think that Butler's improved, and I think Folkes can really bat. I think he has the mind for Test match innings in difficult conditions, and that for me is a really strong argument for him if you combine the two gifts.
Could he change your mind for the rest of this series if he goes and has a fine 100?
I think he's a great glove man, but I don't feel he's more likely to catch every ball or make everything work for him than Butler necessarily is, or Bairstow actually. I think Matt was a fabulous clubman. But I mean, look, anyway, it's an interesting discussion. We need to keep moving because we're only on air for another 10 minutes. And anyway, we need to hear from the Indian captain, Virat Kohli, such an interesting guy on so many levels, such a fabulous player. And just a moment ago, he was chatting with the former left-arm spinner from India, Murali Kartik.
To be honest, playing at home without the crowd in the stands, things were a little flat in the first couple of days, to be very honest. Myself included, just didn't pick up the energy in the field. But I think the second innings onwards in the first game, we picked up our game and we were on the money in terms of our body language and what we wanted to do on the field. But this game, I think, crowd makes a massive difference. You know, when the fans are behind you, obviously, you push more as a team. And this game was an example of that grit and determination that we have shown as a side, and we continue to do that, and the fans' support, as you rightly mentioned, is a big part of that.
Is that one of the reasons why you were exhorting and egging them on whilst you were fielding?
Yeah, look, I mean, Chennai crowd, everyone knows they're a very intelligent crowd. You know, they understand their cricket really well. So for me, it's sometimes in moments of the game where a 15-20 minute period, which is important, where the bowler needs that support from the crowd, it's my responsibility as a captain to, you know, involve everyone, bring everyone in, because if I'm running into bowl in this heat, I want people to motivate me, and that motivation pushes you further to do special things.
Yeah, dramatic turnaround. What a remarkable comeback, losing by 227 runs, that's a mammoth loss, and then to win by 317 runs. You have to say it's a perfect game for India.
It is indeed. I think our application with the bat was outstanding in this game. The conditions were challenging for both sides, but we showed more application and grit and determination to battle it out. We didn't panic out there looking at the amount of turn and bounce on that pitch. We trusted our defense and we got into the game and we scored 600 runs total in 2 innings combined. So, yeah, look, if you put up that kind of a batting performance and you string in those important partnerships, then we know that our bowlers are going to do the job in home conditions. So, yeah, it was a perfect game for us.
I asked you at the end of last game if the toss was crucial. After having won the toss, do you think it was still crucial in this game?
I don't think on this pitch it would have mattered so much, to be very honest with you, because if we looked at our second innings on day 3, we still applied ourselves, almost got 300 again. So we believed that we can get runs on that pitch, and it wasn't unfair if the toss went either way. You know, both teams had to apply themselves, and that's what you want in Test cricket. Whether you're playing on spinning tracks or you're playing on seaming tracks which have a lot of grass on it, both teams should be in the game from the first session onwards, and that's exactly the case on this pitch.
Keeping from both sides was brilliant. Rishabh Pant was spectacular. A word on him?
Yeah, look, he's really worked hard in Australia, and the difference with a super skilled batsman like him, you won't really see the difference in batting, but when he moves with the gloves, you can see that difference in his reactions and reflexes. He's worked physically on himself a lot in Australia. He's shed a lot of weight, and he's become quicker on his feet, and it's showing. You know, the way he kept on this turn, and this pitch with so much turn and bounce was a credit to him for working so hard. And we want him to keep improving as a keeper, get stronger and stronger with his skill sets, because we understand how much value he brings to the team.
Some of your top performers did perform, or the big players in the team: Rohit Sharma, Ajinkya Rahane, and of course Ravichandran Ashwin. But Akshar Patel on debut, fifer.
Yeah, look, it's a special moment for him. He would have played the first game as well if he didn't have that niggle. But yeah, he was very keen to step onto the field. And as a left-arm spinner, when you get that kind of a pitch, which is turning square, and he bowls very fast, so he was just all smiles. He couldn't wait to get the ball in his hand, and very, very happy for him. Hope he builds it up from here on and has a very, very strong couple of games going forward, so that he's always in the mix to play Test cricket for India.
Personally for you, cover drive early doors, and then you completely took that shot out when you batted in the second innings. A very different game plan against the spinners too.
It was indeed. I mean, I've taken a lot of pride in improving myself very quickly, correcting mistakes, which probably I haven't done in the past. On a few occasions I've been rigid, but now for me, if I make an error, I make sure that in the very next innings I iron it out, because I understand that I need to be batting out there in the middle as much as possible, and that partnership with Ashwin was very, very important for us. Almost 100 runs. I think he batted outstandingly well. But yeah, I just decided in the second half that I'm not going to go after the runs so much. Not go ahead of the game. I'm going to trust my defense. I can bat 4 sessions on this pitch, no problem at all. And I'm going to trust my defense to get me out of trouble.
Yeah, very interesting. We know that I talk a lot about how animated he is. You're a very strong character, and he played well. I thought he spoke well about the performance, and there's no doubt he's a formidable opponent. He pointed out how fired up he was by the crowd, and he admitted that he was a little slow off the mark in the series without a crowd in the first test. But interesting stuff. We've just heard that the man of the match was given to Ravichandran Ashwin. I still think it was Rohit Sharma's performance that effectively won the match. But anyway, let's talk about Virat Kohli, guys, because he provides an almighty obstacle for any opponent. But at home in India, now riding on the back of a wave of a victory of 317, he's the most successful captain ever on home soil, a margin of 317 victory. He orchestrates the crowd. I mean, you've played against some tough opponents. He'd be up there now, wouldn't he, with them?
Certainly would be. He doesn't back down, that is for sure. If anything, he always just looking to take a stride forward, isn't he?
Is he on the edge a bit, do you think?
Oh, comfortably.
Yeah. Too much so?
Personally, I didn't think it was right when he was going up to the umpires yesterday and sort of getting in their faces. And there's a way of you can ask a question. I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think the captain can go up to an umpire and say, "How did you see that?" But it's the way he did it. I think was probably over the line. He probably crossed it, didn't he? And he has a tendency to do that. But that's what you get with players that skirt that line. And he is hugely competitive. He's got a huge amount of belief, of course he has, in himself and in his team. And that's what you expect from a performer like Virat Kohli. But first and foremost, with his performance, as he's just said there, he changed his game. He realised that actually going after the runs wasn't going to be easy on this surface. Did he back it? And the crucial bit here was he backed his defence. He backed his defence on that surface against the spinners, and he could bat 4 sessions. I wonder how many England players could say that. Could say, actually, I'm not going to attack. I'm going to sit in. I'm going to back my defence and bat for 4 sessions. Don't know.
No, very good. Where do you put R. Ashwin in the pantheon?
He's right up there, isn't he? I think he's a wonderful bowler, and he bowls beautifully to the conditions. He almost tried to not spin the ball as often as all the other spinners in the game. He was quite happy to challenge the right-handers on the outside edge of the bat and let the pitch do all the work for him. He just knew that he had to bowl enough balls in a good area, change his flight a little bit, change his angle a little bit, and then every now and again he'd just show them, don't worry about me, I can spin the ball, I'm going to challenge you in at short leg and leg slip, I'm just holding you, I'm pushing you down the road that I want you to go down, you're not dictating terms to me, I'm dictating to you, and then to top it all off, he chips in with the bat and gets 100. I just think he's as close to the completest cricketer you're going to find in these conditions.
Okay, let's start summing things up, because we're running to the end of our coverage with the news that England have been beaten by 317 runs, a thorough performance from India today. The bowling was as we thought, the pitch was wicked, and in the end England simply weren't up to it. Joe Root admitted as much. He gave a superb interview, staying calm and looking forward to the fact, Gentlemen, Goffey first. It's 1-1 in the series. England aren't behind.
Exactly, it's 1-1. Totally outplayed from ball one, England in this Test match, but England were dominant in that first Test match. That's the huge positive they take forward. Yes, it's going to frustrate people with the rotation. It frustrates us as cricket fans as well, and commentators, but the frustration of rotating your best team when you're playing against one of the best teams in the world. But listen, they've come up against an Indian team that hit their straps this Test match. They had players that showed individual brilliance, whether it be Sharma, Rahane, whether it be Ashwin, whether it be Patel, whether it be Virat Kohli, and we didn't have enough. We didn't put partnerships together, and that's the reason we lost the game.
Last thought from you, Matt?
Yep, absolutely. No panic needed. You've got some formidable England players coming back into the team for the next Test match. And the other thing, Ahmedabad, day-night match, pink ball, that plays a bit more into England's hands. You won't see it, I don't think, spinning quite as much as this. So England get back in the game just through that point, I think.
All right,
Yep.
thank you.
Two teams played on the front foot and won. Which team can play on the back foot and come through to get a victory is going to be the team that wins the series.
Okay, Goffey, before you go, deep in your soul, can England do this?
Yeah, because they won the first Test match. It's going to be very, very difficult. You've got to be a special team to go to India and win. You know what I mean? They're fantastic on home soil. You'll only have to look at Kohli's record. But Jamie Anderson comes back, and we could have number 2 and 3 ranked bowlers in the world playing the next Test match. Archer as well. We've got spinners. Hopefully, if Moeen Ali's there, he comes in. He's bowled a few more overs. Jack Leach has got better as the series gone on, but we just need someone to get the runs. We've got Joe Root in there. We need someone with Joe Root to stand up and get the runs alongside him. We said that at the start of the series. We need 2 batsmen to get 500 runs.
All right. Thank you very much. Fascinating to listen to you all. Thanks to our great team, to Andrew McKenna and Neil Manthorpe, to Jared Kimber, to Matt, to Goffey, to Gareth, to Johnny Norman, and also, we must say, to Ollie, Scott, Jake and JJ behind the scenes. A tremendous team bringing you coverage on TalkSport 2 mainly, occasionally on TalkSport, of this, the second Test match between India and England. This was played in Chennai, as with the first. It's 1-1 after 2 intense battles, remarkable margins of victory. England by 277 and now India by 317. What on earth will Ahmedabad bring us? Well, find out with us here on TalkSport 2. In the meantime, we shall have a listen to the way India marched to victory today. Thanks for being with us.
Lawrence it is, 26 not out, he's using his feet. Ashwin's finding down the leg side, and Lawrence will be stumped by about half a yard.
Go on then, Macca, you're the wicket keeper. What about that stumping?
We have seen some works of art in this match. I would happily have photos of those on my wall at home if my wife would let me.
And is that out or not? Is that out? It is out, yes, given out by Virender Sharma. Stokesy does not think he's hit that ball, does he? Or is he walking off because he's walking off because he has hit it?
He's almost like a Root. You know, he goes into a net and he's got something he's working on. He's striving to be the best.
This one, he swept it to the leg side. Is it out to mid-wicket? It is! And Ishant Sharma takes the catch, and Ollie Pope's innings is over.
I suppose that we've done a job on him there, haven't we? Ollie Pope looks so good. Tell us about him, Bats. Top edge.
Remember a couple of days ago when Jared Kimber called Axar Patel a sugar-free Ravi Jadeja?
There is no problem with saying you are not as good as one of the best players in the world.
Kimber, I've
but
watched
very
you
similar.
play cricket, and I'm astonished by the level of disrespect you give international cricketers.
Folks on strike again as plays a sweep shot to a full ball, and it's caught at mid-wicket, and Folks has gone. And England 116 for 7.
Oh my goodness me, that's an enormous spinner. Oh, and it's out. It's an incredible bit of bowling. Joe Root has played forward to a truly unplayable delivery. And he goes to sweep, and they appeal, and he's given him out. Akshar Patel has another wicket, his 5th. A 5-wicket haul on debut for India. Down comes Moeen Ali, and it just nails it into the crowd. Down he comes again, and there he goes again. Another one.
This is absolutely breathtaking. I mean, Moeen Ali.
4, just in there. Now Moeen Ali sweeps him over mid-wicket for 6. This is astonishing stroke play.
Kuldeep in for the 18th ball of Moeen's innings. He's come down the pitch, he's missed it, he's stumped. It's game over. Moeen Ali shakes hands with Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli and Ajinkya Rahane, and the game is done. India win by 317 runs.